Before the Roman Empire turned war into policy and law into civilization, it turned something far simpler into an art form. Human beings killing each other in front of 50,000 strangers. You are standing in a tunnel beneath the Colosseum right now. You can hear them above you. The sand is bright. The noise is physical, something you feel in your chest before you hear it with your ears. You are about to walk out there. Some of the men beside you were soldiers once. Some were slaves. Some signed the contract themselves. And that last group is the part nobody quite explains. This is your life as a Roman gladiator. Nobody handed you a brochure. The path into the arena came in 3 flavors, and none of them were good. First option, captured soldier. Yesterday you had a unit, a sword, and a general who technically cared whether you lived. Today you have a collar and an appraised value. Second option, slave, bought or traded to a man who looked at your shoulders and saw an investment. Third option, and this is the one that says something genuinely ugly about the Roman economy. You walked in voluntarily. You were broke. You were in debt. Someone slid a contract across a table and the terms were, we might watch you die, but you will eat every day until that happens. Rome was so brutal for the poor that a career with a realistic death rate was still the upgrade. Let that sit for a second. However you arrived, you now belong to a Lanista, gym owner, talent agent, and slave master rolled into one morally flexible individual. He runs the school, owns the fighters, sets the schedule, and collects the fee when you perform. He is not your friend. He is not your enemy either. You are a depreciating asset, and he is managing his portfolio. This brings us to your new home, the Ludus. And honestly, not completely terrible. Gladiators were fed extremely well. Barley, beans, protein, rest, physicians on staff, not out of kindness. A skinny gladiator is a dead gladiator, and dead gladiators are expensive mistakes. You were high-value equipment that required maintenance, the same way a chariot owner keeps his horses in condition. Pure economics. The moment you stop being worth more alive than dead, the math changes. The training is where the generosity ends. Wooden swords first. Always wooden swords. Because breaking your hand on real iron before you know how to hold it is wasteful, and the Lanista hates waste. Footwork drills, shield angles, how to fall without exposing your neck, how to get back up without looking like you are getting back up. The same sequences, every day, until your body stops thinking and just executes. At some point, the Lanista watches you move and makes a decision. Your build, your speed, your instincts, and whatever combination of those produces the matchups crowds will pay to see. Then he assigns your type. Heavy shield and short blade, the workhorse. Net and trident, which sounds ridiculous until someone who actually knows how to use it backs you into a corner. Curved blade and small buckler, footwork so technical it takes years before you stop looking embarrassing. You did not get a vote. Nobody asked you. You train. You eat. You train again. Weeks become months. The terrified person who arrived here is slowly being replaced by something more useful. You are not entirely sure the replacement is better. The Colosseum is still out there. It is always out there. Fight day arrives, and it is not what you pictured. You pictured fear. What you get is something more physical than that. The noise comes through the stone walls before you reach the tunnel exit, through the floor, through your boots. 50,000 people in one enclosed space produce a sound that has no real comparison, a pressure more than a volume. Senators in the front row, merchants stacked behind them, the entire social architecture of Rome arranged in tiers, all of it pointed at the same patch of sand. You walk out, and the light hits you, and every single one of them is looking directly at you. Quick myth to dispose of before the fight starts. The thumbs up, thumbs down gesture is almost certainly wrong. Ancient sources suggest the actual signals used were different, and the editor, the man who funded the games, typically held final authority over whether a defeated fighter walked out or did not. Hollywood built the version you know. Rome, as usual, was messier and less cinematic. The fight itself was not designed to be fast. That is the thing people consistently misunderstand. A good gladiator bout was technical, extended theatrical. Two trained fighters reading footwork, testing angles, building tension the crowd could feel accumulating. Killing your opponent in 30 seconds was bad business. The crowd did not come to watch someone hit the sand immediately. They came for drama, for the moment where everything hangs and the arena goes quiet. You were not simply a fighter, you were a performer who happened to be armed, and the Lanista, who spent serious money on your barley, and your physician, needed the performance to justify the investment. You win. The sound the crowd makes is not something you will ever find the right words for. Your name, which meant nothing to 50,000 strangers this morning, is now coming from 50,000 mouths simultaneously. Women throw things into the arena, flowers, tokens, objects you do not have time to identify. Rich Romans in the front rows are making a mental note of your face. And then you go back to the Ludus. You train, you eat your barley, you wait. Winning does not end your career, it extends it. Every victory is another contract renewal you did not negotiate and cannot refuse. Fame in the arena is a trap dressed as a reward, and the decoration is extremely convincing. Some gladiators became genuine celebrities. To be clear, graffiti scratched onto the walls of Pompeii records the names of popular fighters alongside commentary that is charitably enthusiastic. Love letters arrived. Dinner invitations came from wealthy Romans who wanted the social credit of proximity. The arena manufactured real stars, men whose faces were recognized across the city and whose names outlasted the emperors who watched them fight. Speaking of emperors, Commodus reportedly entered the arena himself on multiple occasions. His opponents were strongly encouraged to lose. Remarkably, every single one of them managed it. The best exit had a name, the Rudis, a small wooden sword presented to a gladiator who had earned his freedom through skill, through survival, through whatever combination of both satisfied the crowd and the editor on the right day. You are done. Walk away. The object they hand you is insultingly small for what it represents, which is every morning for the rest of your life where nobody tells you when to wake up. Worst case, you already know. The crowd knew too and came anyway. Average career, 2 to 5 years. A handful of exceptional fighters lasted into their 30s, which in arena terms was an almost geological achievement. Most left behind nothing, except a name cut into a stone marker outside a Roman city, put there by whoever cared enough to pay for it, while the crowd that watched them perform had already moved on before the sand was raked clean and the next bout was announced. Rome took human suffering and industrialized it into the most successful entertainment product the ancient world ever produced, and did it so completely, so obsessively, that 2,000 years later, we are still reconstructing every detail of how the schools worked, how the fights were scored, how the contracts were written, and what the crowd actually did with their thumbs. Rome would consider that the highest compliment possible.